Hey guys, welcome back to week 2 of our series Dollars and Cents, and I am really hoping that after last week you were able to go home and do some deep reflection, really looking at that aspect of where do I not trust God? When I shut down my business and when I went through, if I'm honest with you, a really anxiety-inducing part of my life where the finances just weren't there, where I was struggling, we were struggling to make ends meet. We also had to do a deep dive on where were we spending our money at? What was our meaning attached to money? And we also had to look, if I'm honest with you, and quite honestly, I'm even embarrassed to admit this, but a lot of the debt that we had accumulated over our years together. And that's what we're going to be diving in today, is the topic of debt. Now, if you talk to top financial gurus in American culture, and I've read through them all, like there's good debt and there's bad debt. And I'm not here to argue with you about good debt versus bad debt today, but I am here to introduce a concept to you, is that debt is actually what keeps us in slavery. Slavery to our bills, slavery of our time, slavery to making money for other people, where we are not able to follow our purpose and follow our calling. But to really understand why this keeps us in such chains, we also have to understand what is the identity that we have around money. Do you believe that you are the accumulation of your stuff, your status, and your reputation? And this is something that I have struggled with. And as we dive in today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the fact that, yes, I am a recovering shopaholic. Yes, I am somebody who has had the credit cards, thrown the credit card bills away, buried my head in the sand, felt that urge when you walk into the store, like, let me be honest with you, I can walk into TJ Maxx and that rush I get is I am filling my cart, whoo! But the big question I have had to ask myself, and I will ask you today in today's sermon, is where are you putting money in your life as your identity? Where are you utilizing the stuff that money buys as a status symbol of your worth? And what thoughts do you need to unwire in order to climb out of the chains of debt? So let's dive in.
Woo! You guys are all really excited to do a money series right before Christmas, weren't you? Yes, you are excited about it. You can thank me for that. I'll take the Otis for it. For those of you that are new here at UCC and you're like, who is this person? Why are we talking about this right now? My name is Ashley. I am the discipleship pastor here at UCC. And before we dive in, I want to ask, how many of y'all are Thanksgiving people? Like, that's your holiday. Okay, I'm trying to see. I see a few of you. So Thanksgiving people are like, the Christmas tree does not go up, right, until after Thanksgiving. You're planning out the menu, you're planning where you're watching football at, and it does not start, Christmas does not start until several days after Thanksgiving, or at least the day after. How many of y'all are Christmas people? Okay, so the Christmas people are like, did we put the Christmas tree up yet? Have we got the list ready to go? I have several Christmas people in my family. They've already asked for Christmas lists from my kids. Yesterday I was like, y'all better send grandma this Christmas list because she's asking me for it. And so my kids are awesome. They got lists with hyperlinks. So there's no question. It's this one in this color and they're ready to go. Personally, in my family growing up, we weren't Thanksgiving people. We weren't Christmas people. We were Black Friday people. Yep, so we would get together at my grandma's. We would eat Thanksgiving dinner. Sweet potatoes were great. Turkey was on prime. And then everyone sat down at the table. There's like 18 of us cousins, and the aunts and grandma are out with the catalogs. And the catalogs are like, all right, what time are the doors to Walmart opening? What time is Target? Toys R Us was still a thing, and that was a big one for us kids. We got to hit Toys R Us. And so they're like, what time is Toys R Us? And they would plan out their schedule of who was going to be at what doors at what time, waiting in line. And us kids, man, this is what you got to know. I grew up in a family where like we didn't have a want. Like I was clothed, we had food, but like I didn't get to wear the mall brands. In fact, when the transition happened from bell-bottom jeans to skinny jeans, I had to wait till my cousin handed me down her skinny jeans so that I could be cool in the skinny jeans. Just so you know, if you guys didn't get the memo, skinny jeans are now out. It is now about the wide leg pants. And I am blessed to say I can get the wide leg pants today. But back then, I was chomping at the bit. We didn't have extra money for me to be in style. And so Black Friday was like, okay, here we go. We had those catalogs. We were circling. We were listing. And I'm pretty sure that Black Friday is where my shopaholicism started at. Because that rush of, I'm going to get the thing. I'm going to get it on a discount. And we're going to fight people for it. Woo! Let me tell you, like, you know those videos they have of people fighting in Walmart over the TVs? That was my family. That was my family. And when I was 13, I got to start going Black Friday shopping. And I can tell you, I was in there. I was like, I got to go get the deal. I got to go get the discount. I got to get the thing because if it's gone, then I'm going to have FOMO. I'm going to be sad. It's going to be terrible. And so today, we don't really have Black Friday shopping anymore. You know what we have instead? The algorithm. And the algorithm is my best friend. The algorithm, listen, you don't have to circle anything. You can just say the word. I guarantee you, I can say the word Uggs right now. It's listening. I guarantee you, on the way home, I'm going to start scrolling, and guess what? There's going to be some ads for some Uggs right there. It knows, it hears, it senses, it sees when I double tap a little like onto it. And all of a sudden, I've got all of the stores with all of the deals laid out right for me. I don't even need to go Black Friday shopping. And you know what they do now too? Not only do they have the algorithm, but now they text you. It's like a clingy ex. It's like, oh, you forgot this in your shopping cart. I'm like, I know, I put it there intentionally. I walked away because I'm doing good today. And it's like, no, come back. How about I give you 60% off? And also, look at the mini cut Uggs because you're wearing those calf Uggs, and those were from the early 2000s, and you really need the mini cut Uggs because those are what are in style, and it's platform now, ladies. It's platform mini Uggs. I don't have them. I don't know if you can tell, I'm not wearing Uggs today. I don't have the mini cuts, so I can't wear the big cuts either unless I'm going to get the mail. That's the only time. We have the algorithm, and it speaks our language. And it says things like, listen. People are really going to think you're all that in a bag of chips if you wear the mini Uggs. Yeah. In fact, you're going to look real good preaching. If you have those mini Uggs and you have, it's no longer a vest. It's now a puffer vest that comes down to here. Walking into volleyball tournaments, you're going to look like all those other moms. If you have the long vest with the Lululemon leggings, you're going to look real good. That's what it says. You know what else it says? It whispers, and it's like your marriage is going to be better. If you cook dinner on these pots and pans that are color coordinating, I don't cook dinner. This is not my thing. This is my husband's thing. They're going to be better on these pots and pans than they are on those pots and pans. And guess what? Your friendships are going to be better and your devotionals are going to go better if you use the color coordinating highlighters and little tabs instead of the markers that don't coordinate with the rest. Or if you just use yellow, you're just not going to get the word of God placed on your heart today because it is not color coordinated. Those are the lies. And so what we do is we believe it. And we go swipe, Face ID, double click, cha-ching. Then my little shopping app is like, it's on its way to you. And I'm like, oh, when? And I get that anticipation. Do you know what I'm talking about? My heart starts getting, I'm excited. I'm sitting at my desk in the morning, ready for work, little coffee, and I'm like, but I'm getting a package today. Thank you, Amazon. Let's go, let's go. That's what we have today. The problem is where that ends up with us later on is that the average American household carries about $7,900 in just credit card debt. The average car payment today is going to blow some of your minds because you're like, what kind of car is they driving? $750 a month, average car payment. Not my car. My car's not that fancy, but point still stands. And nearly 60% of people in American culture are living paycheck to paycheck. The problem isn't just that the numbers on the statement keep rising up month to month to month to month, but what also happens is the anxiety. that comes. How am I going to pay for Christmas this year? Inflation keeps going up. Like, y'all know the cost of eggs this year? You remember that anxiety? Am I going to have enough eggs? Connors, I need to put in for some of your eggs, please, because the cost of eggs is making me a little bit broke. The anxiety starts creeping up. And we start robbing Peter to pay Paul, which I don't actually know where that statement comes from because it sounds kind of biblical, but it's not. It's not a good thing. Robbing Peter to pay Paul over here. What ends up happening is that as our debt ceiling rises, we end up in a type of slavery. And that sounds like a really harsh statement. And for some of you, you're like, man, listen, if this is your first time in church, I'm just going to tell you, come back, because if you are experiencing anxiety right now, don't worry, by the end it's going to be okay. But also come back another week, another day, because these topics are hard to talk about. And that statement that debt feels like slavery, that's like, for some of us, we're thinking about our credit cards and we're like, ooh, I don't know that I want to go to this church anymore. But hold out. Stay with me. Because if you turn in your Bibles all the way back into Exodus, I want to lay out this argument for you of what slavery really can look like. Because no, I don't think that most of us are in a physical place where your managers are standing over you with a whip and it's like, make more, do better. I mean, some of you might feel that way. But for most of us, that physicalness isn't happening. That's not where you're at. But if we look at a time in the Bible where they were experiencing very real slavery. We're going to go back in Exodus. And I'm not going to read the whole story to you, but I am going to give you a little bit of background. So in Exodus, you have Egypt. And Egypt was like the economic super global power of that day and age. The entire culture of Egypt was centered around a couple of things. Wealth, building bigger and bigger monuments and cities and buildings, and they had an obsession with superficial beauty. Sound a little familiar? Maybe a little bit. Little familiar, today's age. So Egypt was in a place where their entire obsession was, how can we make more wealth? How can we make more money? And the way that they did this was by having free or cheap labor, i.e. slaves. And the Israelite people were in Egypt and were the slaves of the day. Now, the Israelites got their little history lesson. They got there because of famine. They were sitting there. They were living life okay until their king, Pharaoh, was like, nope, Israelite people are getting too big. You know what we're going to do? We're going to make them the slaves to what we want to have happen here for our culture. And the entire economic system ran on two things, constant labor, and a high production output. Essentially, it was this economic powerhouse that was built on specifically human exhaustion, the Israelites' exhaustion, their work and their output. So the bricks, the monuments, the cities kind of built on the back of the Israelites day after day after day after day. Now, put this into modern day. Again, sure, most of us aren't in a place where we have someone lording over us, physically pulling us out of our houses, making us go build bricks day after day. We are very fortunate in America that we are not in that exact scenario. But I want to kind of pose something to you. How did Pharaoh keep all of those people in slavery? Because there was more Israelites than there were Egyptians. So how did he keep lording over them and making them slaves to what he wanted? Well, he kept them completely exhausted. That was the first thing. Remember, the production quotas. He kept a very high quota. You must make this amount of bricks. And so what he would do is raise the quota again and again and again. So the Israelites had to produce more and more and more. And when you're obsessed with that production because you don't have any other option, what ends up happening is you're working day after day after day with no leisure, no time to sit back for a side gig to make yourself a little money, no time for a rest day or a Sabbath day to even go worship at the temple. No, the Israelites' entire life was centered around making more bricks, having a higher production. And again, we are not in this exact situation. But how many of us sometimes end up in a place where we're working day after day after day after day without a whole lot of rest, leisure, freedom, maybe even working multiple jobs. Again, not such a bad thing. Look at this. Moses and Aaron were two that were tasked with going to Pharaoh to ask Pharaoh at first, not even, hey, will you let my people go from God, but to say, hey, will you let the Israelites have a day off to go worship their God? This is how Pharaoh responded. But the king of Egypt said, Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to your work. Then Pharaoh said, look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from working. That same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. Go make more bricks. Spend more time, get your own straw. It's not our life. But what about go make more money, to buy more things, to pay more debt, to make more money, to buy more things? Both of these cycles to keep people in a state of exhaustion, to keep them unable to think, unable to have free time, unable to accumulate their own wealth. Kind of means, in today's day and age, just put this into perspective. Our paychecks, when we're in debt, are pre-spent on who we owe that money to. On average, American 2025, $64,000 in total debt. That's the average, which you might be like, Ashley, that's not really a big deal. Like, that's doing all right. I got a mortgage, I got some cars, I got a little bit, like, I'm doing all right. But I want to put this into perspective of your time. If someone carries a credit card balance of $2,400, no, not $2,400, $10,000. I have to check my math because I actually did the math, so I got to make sure I'm saying the right numbers because some of you are going to be like, do I believe her? I'm going to go do the math myself. $10,000 credit card debt. But the APR, 24%. That means you're paying about $2,400 a year in interest as you carry that revolving debt of $10,000. Now, Saline, Michigan, average median wage is $21.52, which is approximately 112 extra hours of work, about 2 to 3 extra hours a year. Make more money, spend more money, end up in debt, have the interest to pay. Now your time is not your own. Now you're stuck filling that quota, and the quota keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Here's the thing, you guys. I need to break it down for us. Our systems that are in place are banks, credit card companies, government. Do you know where they primarily make their money at, besides taxes? Primarily? Interest payments. That's where they make their money at. And so these banks that we are lending from, they are actually set out for you or I to get rid of the debt. In fact, they're really, really happy if we start accumulating that debt and having that interest that sits over us. They're like, yes, Ashley, you want more credit card? You want another one? Here's another one. Listen, I played that game, y'all. It's dangerous. They just slide it to you in your mailbox, and they're like, have one more. Have one more. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take one more. I'm going to take one more. But that is the system that is at place. Maybe for some of you, you're sitting there, and you're like, Ashley, I don't have that debt. Like, we learned early on with my spouse, we're not going to play that game. Like, we don't have any debt. But how many of us are still stuck in that rat race of even chasing after prettier car, bigger home, the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing? And not because those things are bad, but because we fall in love with a system that tells you that those things are what's going to give you your worth. Those things are where you're going to find your value. Those things are when you're going to have a high reputation. And this is what I have come to learn to believe, is that debt is not actually an issue of anything other than a distorted identity factor. I'm going to tell you why. If you come back to our story, Pharaoh wouldn't reduce the quota for the Israelites, but he was going to make them work harder to meet that quota. He says this right after he was talking to Moses and Aaron. They're lazy. That's why they keep crying out, let us go and sacrifice to our God. Make the work harder for the people so that they keep working and they pay no attention to those lies. What's he actually saying? You don't need a day off. You're lazy if you stop producing. You're not enough. Put this into today's terms, because that's, again, not quite what it said today. Y'all ever been part of the hustle harder crowd? Stay up a little bit later. Hustle a little bit more. Work yourself to the bones. If you don't have enough things, you're not actually worth anything. Have the house, have the clothes, have the country club access, have the things, and then you will be enough. And that is the lie of today. In other words, your value is tied to what you produce and what you consume. I'm going to tell you, this is a really hard lesson for me to learn. Like a really hard lesson. And some of you have tracked with us for a while, so you know a little bit of my story. And so I promise I'm not going to be super repetitive today. But this was a lesson that I learned a long time ago. Growing up, you had to earn love, earn affection. And to do that, you had to be good enough. And so I took this message with me into my young adult life. And in my young adult life, I was like, okay, so I need to have a very specific job. I need to have a certain amount of money. I have to look a certain way. And if I have that, well, then I will be enough for people to want to be friends with me, to people to be in a romantic relationship with me. And how this manifested was I ended up at a gym, working for a gym that I'm still pretty sure is a cult. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty expectant that it's going to end up on a Netflix documentary series one day, and I'm going to enjoy watching it, and I'm going to be like, yeah, get them, get them, get them. Let me break it down for you. I'm like 24, 25 years old, and I'm fresh out of my personal training certification, and at this point, my life was a hot mess, and I am desperate for people to view me a little bit differently, like desperate. I made a hot mess of my life, and so I get an opportunity at this gym. And it sounds like awesome. They're like, listen, we are going to be helping you make 6 figures a year. That's what we want for you. And in fact, the fact that you haven't made 6 figures a year is not a big deal. It's like you just haven't been around the right people. You haven't hustled hard enough. We are going to help you do this. I'm excited. I'm like, yes, because I see the managers, listen, they are driving Audis and BMWs, and I'm driving my little Chevy Cruze that's got a dent on the side because I hit a median with a cracked windshield. Like, that's what I'm driving. So I'm pulling up in the parking lot, and I'm looking to my left and my right, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good, so good. And I keep telling Brandon at that point, I'm like, listen, they have a path for me. I'm going to be making 6 figures. Our family is going to be set. They give us clients. This is perfect. It's awesome. So at this time, I'm an independent contractor. Now, my dumb butt, I didn't know, like, as an independent contractor, you get to set your own schedule. Like, the rules are a little bit different if you're an independent contractor. You also don't get paid for time that you're not doing the contracted work. So I get my clients, I train my clients, I get paid for that. But then this is what they start telling us. You're not going to get any more clients if you aren't here in the middle of the day for our 2-hour meetings. And these meetings are great because we're going to pour into you. We're going to teach you how to sell. We're going to give you continuing education. And I'm eating it up because I've never had a mentor pour into me so much. They're like, Ashley, you're going to make all this money. I'm like, let's go. Like, they see me. At one point, the gym owner, he's like, Ashley, you're pure magic. I'm like, you're just speaking all these kind things to me. Let's go. Come on. What I didn't realize is all those hours we spent in the middle of the day, we don't get paid for them. And they're like, listen, we really need you to also be working weekends. Because if you want to make it in this industry, you need to be working Saturdays and Sundays. Like, that's what it takes. We just need you to hustle a little bit harder. And so I'm telling Brandon, I'm like, listen, I have to do this. I have to go to work. I have to work a little bit more. I have to do a little bit more. Working so many hours. Somebody the other day said, hey, you remember when Kale, our oldest, do you remember when she was playing basketball? I said, Kale never played basketball. Like, yes, you did. I never went to a basketball game. Entire season of life. I don't remember her playing basketball. Because I was obsessed with and consumed with the idea that if I just worked a little harder, if I just hustled a little more, if I just did the thing the right way, if I just made enough money, like I would be enough. People would see me for how I wanted to be seen. Thank goodness for Brandon and him finally 2 years later being like, you gotta quit this job. But I still remember the last thing the gym owner said to me as I was trying to quit my job, sitting there in the office crying. I know, it's weird. It was a cult. Why am I crying, quitting a job? I don't know. He said, Ashley, you will never amount to anything because all you ever do is quit. It's the lie. That time, that gym was just getting a whole lot of cheap and free labor from a lot of really young 20-year-olds that didn't know any better but desperately wanted to be something. And that's the lie that so many of us actually get caught in believing. Understand this. Whether you're here and this is your first time in a church, whether you have been walking with Jesus for a long time, Satan still only has one goal for all of us. He wants to steal your hope. He wants to kill your dreams, and he wants to destroy your peace. And that's the lie that's still steep in our culture today. Key lie. I am what I have. I am what I produce. I am what I consume. I'm not judging you because I've been there. Because I know that when I consume something, and especially if I get it on a discounted deal or at a thrift shop, I get this little joy inside of me. For that brief moment, I'm like, ooh, I feel so good about myself. I imagine myself in the outfit. I'm like, oh, it's so good. It comforts me. It makes me feel better. It makes me think that I'm going to be something. And that is the lie that is steeped into our culture. I need to have a nicer house in order to be able to host a small group. No, you don't. I don't want to invite my friends over because I am embarrassed. Your friend just wants the invitation. We think that our things and what we have is going to make us feel comfortable, comforted, and in control. And that is the role that God is supposed to have in our life. And it's a moving target that's never going to make you feel enough. Listen to the shopaholic. It's a cycle that really does keep us in bondage today. It's that culture that says, keep hustling, keep doing more. Busyness almost becomes like that badge of belonging, like, I'm so busy. And if you're not busy, well, you're doing it wrong. If you dare to keep a Saturday off for yourself, well, for your family, like you're doing something wrong. You're never going to get ahead. You're never going to be where you need to be. Here is what I've learned. It's a really cheap way to try to achieve what God has actually created you and me for. That's the lie. So I've had to literally rewire my way of thinking. Your freedom, my freedom, comes in rewiring. One of my favorite verses in the Bible says, constantly be renewing your thoughts. That's where we're going to dive in a little bit here. You got to understand what God's actually created us for. This is the coolest part. This is where the tension gets to release a little bit. The tension you've been holding in your chest because you're like, is Ashley looking at my bank account? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just speaking from my experience. I promise you. I promise you. What did God create you and I for? Because he has a much bigger purpose than for you and I to live in this rat race all of the time or to be indebted. Genesis 1-3. Not going to read it to you, but if you go back and you track through it, God created us with a purpose to cultivate. God's not mad if you have things. Can I be the first to say this? Because sometimes it can feel like when you go to a church and you hear a money message, it's like, don't have the things. In fact, I'm pretty sure at some point I was like, you just want a nicer house and a nicer car. I do want a nicer car. I do want a nicer car. I do. At some point. But the thing is, he didn't just create us to consume. Because he knows that little dopamine hit that kind of, I'm so excited. It's vapor. It lasts for 30 seconds. And in fact, there's so much more power in even hoping for the thing and wanting the thing, and more dopamine we get from that than when the Amazon box actually arrives. That's marketing psychology. If you want to know more, hit me up later. He created us to cultivate, meaning we actually have a purpose. We're not just here for no reason. When he put Adam in the garden, he said, go and cultivate and have dominion over all of this garden. Go, create. Now, if some of you are not gardeners, and you're like, well, how am I supposed to cultivate in the garden when I don't have a green thumb? Listen, I see you. I can't even keep succulents alive. I really, really tried. But fortunately for us, all of us don't have the same ground to work with. But what we all do have is the same calling. Ephesians 2:10 says this: we were created in advance for good works. That's the calling that God has on our life, meaning whatever ground you walk in, maybe you work at a hospital, maybe you work in your home, maybe you're with your kids. Whatever that ground is, you and I have purpose to create within it, to take what he's given us, our time, our talents, and our treasures, and to put that to work for good works that are even beyond ourselves. It means that we get to live our lives in such a way that when the world looks at us, they actually see the glory of God displayed. Problem is, sometimes we're so far in debt that we can't even pursue that cultivation. Sometimes it happens that the big day rolls around, which is a day that we give, and you have that urging in your heart and you want to give more, but it's just not there because most of your money is already pre-spent paying back the interest that you owe to those credit cards. Or maybe you just find that like you're going down the highway and you see somebody who's on the side of the road and your kid, like my kid, is like, Mom, we gotta stop. We gotta stop. And I'm like, I can't afford to give to that person because I'm up to my eyeballs over here. Or maybe, Christians, we start adding the tithe on top of what we already owe. And so we just end up a little bit more with that overhead. Again, not condemning, but this is what I found out really, really recently when I sat down and really started looking at my debt and what I'd been chasing in the world and where I ended up. I have 3 main callings in my life right now. First one, really feeling this call to my family. Like really feeling this call. I never thought, I told my small group, I'm feeling like I'm gonna have to start doing some homeschooling. I never wanted to be a homeschool mom. Like, I don't have patience like that. That's not who I am. It's not how God created me. Oh, I never wanted to do that. But I've really been feeling like, man, my kids need me right now. They need me to be present. They need me to be engaged. And you know what I keep thinking about when I think about quitting my job so that I can actually be with them at 5 o'clock at night when they get home? I can't afford to quit my job right now. Because that's our debt situation. Second calling is to this church. My calling is to people and going and spending time with people who are hurting, who are brokenhearted, who need help, who need to hear the gospel message of Jesus. Do you know how much of my time gets tied up in working more because I have to right now? Again, this is my story. I don't know what your story is. This is my story. But that's my second calling, is to people. And as I sit there and think about the time that I would just go spend beside people's bedsides, the time that I would go spend ministering at the prison, the time that I would spend mentoring, aging out foster youth, that's what I want to be doing. But the debt is here. And my third calling is really that ground that God's given me to till, which is in coaching people, seeing people, ministering to their hearts. I had this vision. I shared it with my husband about 6 months ago. I'm like, I really, really want to buy a lake house for wellness retreats. Do y'all know how much lake houses are in Michigan? Have y'all looked on Zillow? Do you do that thing where you sit and like you swipe and you're like, oh, I could do that one for sure. You send it to your husband, you're like, 700,000, baby, I got it. I know we do. I'm gonna believe for it. Well, God said, Ashley, before you can do that, I need you to steward over here and get this part of your life in control. Those are my callings. That is the vision that God has given. That is the purpose. He said, this is what I have for you. But how many of us are stuck in a place where we can't pursue the ground that God has given us to cultivate because we're still being kept in bondage, either bondage to our debt or bondage to a lie that says, this is all I have for you is for you to consume more. It's a lie. That's what American culture is going to breathe over us. It's a lie. That's not all he has for us. Again, there's nothing wrong with the house. There's nothing wrong with a beautiful car. There's nothing wrong with fashionable clothes that you do get at TJ Maxx on sale and thrift and that you do enjoy wearing. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's all that we have, then we are really missing the greater mark of what God has called us to be. He said, go be the salt of the earth. Be the light of the world. I have more for you. And so if you ask me, Ashley, why are we doing a money series? It's not Pastor Chris's fault. But why are we doing a money series right before we jump into the holidays? It's because what God put on my heart is I think there's more of us in the church actually struggling with this in some way. Maybe not exactly like me, but in some way than we talk about. And this is one area that we actually feel a lot of shame around. Like, do y'all go to your small group and sit there and actually talk about, like, hey, guess what? I'm this much in debt. Probably not. It makes for an awkward conversation. We just keep that hidden in our back pocket, and we're lucky if one other person in our life knows that we're actually drowning a little bit. So here's where I want to leave you, and what I, as your discipleship pastor, want to give to you is no matter where you're at, I want to give you a thought to rewire, a different way of thinking. Whether you're here in debt up to your ears and you're seeking that change out, whether you're here and you're like, man, I just want to exit the rat race and have my freedom of my time back. Or maybe you're here and you're like, listen, I learned how to steward. I have the bank account. I'm feeling really good at this point. I got something for each of us. The first one, healthy spiritual disciplines. For those of you that might be in debt, here's the thought I want you to rewire. The lie is, if I avoid it, it will go away. It doesn't. I'm going to tell you what. Listen, I'm the queen of anxious avoidance. I'm like, ooh, got that bill in the mail? I'll just go put it over here. And actually, I might just hide it from my husband. It's okay. We've worked through it. But take stock of where you're at, okay? One of the things that I know about anxiety, and especially anxiety related to finances specifically, is that if Satan's trying to keep you trapped, he's going to use anxiety to keep you from actually taking stock of where you're at. We did Beyond the Message just a little bit different this year, goodness gracious, this series. If you go into the app and you look at Beyond the Message, what we have is a list of resources that if you've never been on a budget, you can get on a budget. There's Excel spreadsheets for those of you that are like, whoop, let's go with the Excel. The formulas are already done. You click the link, you can get an Excel spreadsheet, like you're good to go. There's also a list of resources if you are more of like, hey, can something just track my money for me and show me where it's going? I like those because I like easy. My husband keeps trying to get me to use a spreadsheet, and I'm like, no, I don't understand, but I do understand this. This one's good. So there's a list of resources. Take stock. Look at where your debt is at, and then get some measure of accountability in your life. It's the biggest thing I can say. If there's people in your life, church, we're the church. So if some of you are really great with finances, like don't keep that to yourself. Come talk to me so I can link up those of us that might say, hey, can I have an accountability partner? Can I have somebody who maybe knows more about APRs? If you are a young adult and you're about to leave high school, talk to someone about how do I create a budget and how do I do this smartly. Number two, for those of you that are like, Ashley, that situation is fine. Like, I don't have this going on, but you keep entering into the same cycle of I have to have more. I have to be more. And you'll know if it's a lie because it will sit there and it will give you an anxious feeling. I have to get this next thing, and if I don't get this next thing, what is that going to say about me? Here's the lie. Here's the thought to rewire. You are not what you have. And your value is not tied to what you've produced or consumed. You are a child of God. That is your first identity. But the thing I want you to put into practice and to start putting in as a spiritual discipline is actually practicing a Sabbath day. And a Sabbath day is a day of the week where you genuinely, and some of y'all struggle with this because I know some of y'all's life, take a day off. Like genuinely take a day off. Put the work to the side and be present with your family. Be present with the people in your life. Maybe, I don't know, I would just venture to say you could even take a nap. Like you could. Maybe you need a nap in your life and you just keep running ragged. Take a Sabbath. But the point of the Sabbath is not to say just do these things and don't do these things. The point of the Sabbath is to sit back and reflect on like what God has already done in thankfulness. Sabbath was created for us to have that moment. And some of you are like, Ashley, I can't stop. If I stop, man, you don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to get ahead. You don't know where I'm at. Listen, if even God rested, you need to rest too. Take the Sabbath. Take a break from working. Take a break from the day-to-day. Reflect on what God has given you. And dare I say, maybe even take a break that day from consuming. I don't know. Put it out there. Maybe turn that Face ID off for a day. Number 3, for those of you who are not in that camp or the other camp and you say, well, what do I do? Ashley, we're set. We've lived our life really faithfully. I have a client who I was just doing a coaching call with, and she says, Ashley, I'm so glad my husband and I sacrificed way back when, and I didn't tell her because this wasn't a health coaching conversation. I'm like, this would be awkward if I was like, wish I would have done that a little bit ways ago. But she's like, I did it. Like, I sacrificed. We are feeling so good. She's like, but I don't know what's next. Maybe you're in that camp. Listen, you can build generational wealth, and there is such good in that, but you can't take your wealth with you. Your object is to now ask God, what do you want me to do with this? If he's given it to you, you've stewarded it well, what is the ground that he wants you to cultivate? Because he has more for you than just living in the house and doing your life. I love to travel, but even that to a point is like, where do I go from here? Maybe he wants you to start a nonprofit. Maybe there is a population on your heart that is, you are just breaking for. Maybe it's foster youth. Maybe it's the homeless. Maybe there's just someone in your life that you're like, I want to bless this person above and beyond. Maybe you're like, I just want to go to the schools and pay off the lunch debt. Although I'm pretty sure lunch was still free in Michigan this year for school lunches. At least I hope so, because I haven't been putting any in the bank account, so hopefully it is, and I don't have more debt there. Maybe that is what God has on your heart. Maybe he's just saying, I want you to continue building your business and helping to build my church. Or maybe he's saying, I just want you to see people the way I see them. Open your eyes. Where is the need at? And can you, with what I've given you, fill the need? He's created us in advance for good works, because our lives get to display the glory of God. We'll come back for 1 second, because I know sometimes these topics, like they pinprick there a little bit. I am not in a place where I stand before you and I'm like, I've got this all figured out. These are things that God has been actively teaching me. It doesn't feel good to stand before you and be like, yeah, guys, we're carrying some credit card debt. In fact, Brandon was like, why are you talking about this in front of the church? Because I'm not asking you to follow me, but I am asking you to follow me as I follow Christ. That as he teaches me a little bit more of what it means to be a Christ follower, to be a Christian in a world that really wants nothing to do with him, he says, come follow me. Let me show you a better way. Let me show you the rhythms of rest. Get out of the rat race. Quit judging yourself by what you have and what you don't have. All that stuff is vapor. I have more for you in my Father's house. I have greater for you. He says, I didn't come as a king here onto this earth to be served, but to go serve. Watch what I'm going to do through you. Watch what generational curses I'm going to break through you. Watch how many lives are changed through you. He's not holding back for you. He says, I'm going to bless you so you can go be a blessing. Because that is our purpose on this earth, is not to just sit here and accumulate, consume, and watch it all go as we die. There's so much more. I'm going to land with this last thought and this last story. My daughter, Alex, our youngest, man, she hit me in the heart a couple months ago. I was on maternity leave, and I was like, man, all those moments I missed when she was younger because I was busy grinding, producing money for somebody else. I'm still so mad about that. I might turn them into Netflix myself. I really might. All those moments that I missed, I was like, I really want to have those moments with her. She was like 1.5 years, and thank goodness for Brandon, because he held the fort down. He took care of my kids, and I missed so many moments chasing after the wrong thing at that time. I was like, you know what? We're going to have all these experiences. I have my new baby. I'm on maternity leave. Like, we're going to go do all these things. And I was like, we're going to go to the Henry Ford. We're going to go to Greenfield Village. We're going to go to the water park. We're going to go to the zoo. Well, Alex, she's just decided she's in a whole mood now. She's hit 10 years old, and she's like, ugh, we're going to do what? We're going to do what? And I was like, I just want to shake you. Don't you understand this is fun? Don't you understand I spent money on this? And so we're on our way to Greenfield Village this summer. And I stopped by Target. Kid keeps growing. She needs some new pants. I'm like, okay, we need to get you some new pants. She's like, why? I'm like, because your pants are sitting 3 inches above your ankles. It's not cute. You need some pants. And so we get some pants, and we're about to head to Greenfield Village, and we go past this gentleman on the side of the road, and he has a sign. And my Alex, she has a heart for the homeless and the people in need. Like, every single time that we pass somebody, she's like, Mom, do you have any cash on you? And every single time I'm like, I don't have cash. I have credit cards. It's an issue. I don't have cash. And she struck me because I'm so busy trying to get to Greenfield Village, and she's like, Mom, do you have anything on you? Do you have any? I'm like, no, I don't have any cash on me, Alex. I don't have anything. Just stop, stop, stop. I'm trying to have a good experience with you. And we pull up to Greenfield Village, and this kid's just like, bump, 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 bump. And she goes inside. She sits down in a corner of the Henry Ford Museum and won't move. Ugh. Let's go. Oh, man, no. Oh, I'm so mad. We get back into the car because I'm like, okay, whatever. And she says to me, Mom, why is it more important that I get to go have this experience that costs money and that guy has nothing? Again, take your kids to Greenfield Village and Henry Ford, have good experiences for them. But what it did for me in that moment is it really flipped some things in my brain of, here, out of the mouths of babes, I have so much. Why can't I go give some to him? We are made for more. He has more for us in store than just the things or the experiences. And so as we go into our communion moment, there's communion on my right and there's communion on my left. It's just a time of reflection. And I want you to approach this within yourself with like a curiosity. I approach it with humor because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. But that's how you want to approach it. Here's what I want to encourage you. Wherever you're at, maybe you did walk in with some debt and you're like, okay, how am I going to get out of this? Lay it at God's feet because he has a plan for you to bring you out of that debt. Maybe you're feeling that moment of like, yeah, like I just feel exhausted, like I've been living my life for everything else. Man, this is that moment. God, where do you see that change or that opportunity for me?
And maybe the question is, God, where do you want to take me next? What is the next page in this story? Wherever you're at, just want you to encourage you to have that space here. And if you need anyone to talk to, we'll be right outside at the connection table. But let's pray and head into communion. Heavenly Father, I know that these topics can be a little bit heavy, but Father, what I'm thankful for is that when you look at us, you're not judging us. What you see is the sacrifice that Jesus has already paid for us. What you see is your Son. And what you see is your children who we're still trying to figure it all out. And Lord, I'm just so thankful for your grace. And so, Father, I want to pray over this church. I want to pray that this church, that we would continue to be a church that has generous hearts. Because, Father, I know this church. I know that they show up Sunday after Sunday looking forward to see how you moved in the community, to who we get to bless. And I'm thankful to be among us. Father, I would just also ask, though, that in these moments you would just reveal to us, where do we maybe need to shift a little bit? Where do we need to rewire our thinking? Where do we need to turn our eyes towards you? Because I know that what you have for us is freedom, not slavery. I know that what you created us for more in this kingdom than we would ever do, just sitting back, keeping to ourselves. And so, Lord, I just pray that in these times and these moments, we would have that time of reflection, that you would speak to us and you would allow us to celebrate what you've already paid for us onto that cross. And as we go into this holiday season, amen.